Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we're diving headfirst into the wild world of Bitcoin and, well, its potential to hit a new all-time high this week.
Oh yeah, it's definitely getting interesting.
Bitcoin's already surged past $72,000, which puts it just $1,000 away from that previous record.
Wow.
To help us break down all of this, we've got the incredible expert speaker with us today.
Glad to be here.
Now you've seen these kinds of price jumps before in the crypto world.
Oh yeah, definitely.
What typically happens next? Is this a sure sign that a new all-time high is right around the corner?
Well, it's like this. You see a sudden surge like this, and it often points to a shift.
Okay.
A shift in how the market's feeling. It's like suddenly a whole lot of people are getting super optimistic about where Bitcoin's headed, and they're all rushing to buy it,
Got it.
which of course pushes the price up.
So it's like a wave of excitement propelling Bitcoin forward.
Exactly. And if we look back historically, these waves often lead to what we call price discovery. That's where we see the price potentially hitting a brand new all-time high. Okay, so we've got this exciting momentum building.
For sure.
Now let's hear what the experts are predicting. We've got some great source material from Cointelegraph, and it highlights some really interesting perspectives.
Oh, yeah. I read that one.
First up, we have Keith Allen, co-founder of Material Indicators.
Yeah, he's a sharp guy.
He's saying that if Bitcoin breaks through that $72,000 resistance level, it could make those who are betting against Bitcoin maybe think twice.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But he also thinks we might see a dip before we reach that new high. Why would that happen? Why a dip before a new high?
It's all about profit taking. See, when the price goes up this quickly, some investors who bought Bitcoin earlier on, they might decide, hey, time to cash in.
Yeah,
They sell to lock in their profits,
makes sense.
and that's selling. Well, it can cause a temporary dip in the price.
So it's like a pause for breath before the next big jump.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And then we have Michael van de Poppe. He's a trader and analyst, and he's even more bullish.
Really?
Oh, yeah, he's predicting a new all-time high this week. And get this, he's linking it to unemployment week in the U.S.
Wait, what? I don't get the connection.
Yeah, it might seem a bit strange at first, but it actually shows how interconnected everything's becoming.
Oh, okay.
Unemployment data can tell us a lot about how healthy the U.S. economy is. A strong economy often makes investors feel more confident about putting their money into riskier assets like Bitcoin.
Interesting.
Van de Poppe seems to think the upcoming data will be positive, which could really boost Bitcoin's price.
So it's all about confidence and how people feel about the economy's overall health.
Exactly. And then you've got Josh Rager, another well-known trader.
Yeah, I've heard of him.
He also believes a new record is likely. He suggests there's this pattern at play. The price breaks through a previous high, then dips a bit, and then surges even higher. What do you think about that?
That sounds like a roller coaster ride.
You're telling me.
Huh.
This pattern, though, it's actually quite common in financial markets. It's often called breakout and retest. After a big price jump, some investors naturally take profits, which causes that dip. But then, if the overall sentiment is still positive, new buyers see that dip as a chance to buy Bitcoin at a slightly lower price,
Right.
and that pushes the price up again.
So it's like this constant dance between those who want to sell high and those who want to buy low.
You got it. Now, it's not just individual traders who are watching all this closely.
Right.
QCP Capital is a major trading firm. They're pointing to some bigger forces at play. This is where it gets really interesting.
Okay, I'm all ears.
So first, they're highlighting the upcoming U.S. presidential elections. Elections, they often create uncertainty in the markets because, different candidates might have different economic policies.
Yeah, of course.
And that makes investors nervous.
Makes sense. Uncertainty makes people hesitant to make those big investment decisions.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, QCP Capital is also talking about the increasing popularity of spot Bitcoin ETFs.
ETFs.
Yeah,
here.
ETFs or exchange-traded funds.
Yeah.
They make it much easier for everyday investors to buy Bitcoin. Imagine it like a basket of assets that you can buy shares of it. Really simplifies the process and opens it up to a much wider audience.
So ETFs could potentially bring a whole lot more people into the Bitcoin market.
Exactly. And lastly, QCP Capital points out that Bitcoin has been outperforming traditional stock markets.
Interesting.
And that's significant because it suggests that Bitcoin might be becoming more attractive to those investors who are looking for better returns than what the stock market's offering.
It's like Bitcoin is showing off its potential and challenging those traditional ways of investing.
Exactly. Now, beyond these broader factors, there's some really intriguing data that gives us a glimpse into market sentiment.
Okay, let's hear it.
The Cointelegraph article mentions perpetual open interest, which is basically a measure of how much money is flowing into Bitcoin futures contracts.
Perpetual open interest. Now that sounds pretty complex.
Okay, so imagine this. You're at a horse race, and you see a ton of people placing bets on one particular horse.
Okay.
The more money that's bet on that horse, the stronger the belief that it's going to win. Open interest is similar. It shows us how much money people are putting into bets on Bitcoin's future price.
Oh.
And right now, that open interest is at a yearly high, which suggests a lot of people are betting on Bitcoin going up.
So it's a sign of confidence in Bitcoin's future. They're putting their money where their mouth is.
Exactly. In fact, the total open interest in Bitcoin futures is almost $23 billion. That's a massive amount of money.
Wow. That's mind-blowing. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here.
For sure.
But there's still so much more to unpack. We'll be back in just a moment to continue our deep dive into Bitcoin's potential to hit that new all-time high. Don't go anywhere.
It really is a fascinating situation, isn't it?
Yeah, totally.
We've got all these different factors at play, market trends,
Yeah.
expert opinions, and even things like elections all converging around Bitcoin right now.
All right, so let's do a quick recap for our listeners just to bring everyone up to speed.
Sound good?
Bitcoin is on the verge of potentially shattering its all-time high.
Yeah, it could be big.
And this is driven by a surge in buying
Right.
optimistic predictions from traders like, Keith Allen and Michael Van de Poppe.
Those guys, yeah.
And those interesting patterns that Josh Rager pointed out.
Right, and don't forget, it's not just about what's happening within the crypto market itself.
Right, of course.
QCP Capital is drawing attention to that bigger picture. The elections, the rise of ETFs, and how Bitcoin's performing compared to traditional stocks.
It's like all eyes are on Bitcoin right now, waiting to see what happens next.
Yeah, totally.
But amidst all this excitement,
Mm-hmm.
there's this big question looming. What happens after Bitcoin hits a new all-time high?
Yeah,
Does it just keep going up forever?
right.
Or will we see a correction?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it? Predicting the future of any market, especially one as volatile as crypto, is, well,
Yeah, it's tricky.
it's really tricky.
Yeah.
But we can look at, historical trends and the current market dynamics to at least explore some possible scenarios.
Okay, so let's play out those scenarios. Let's say Bitcoin breaks through its previous record. What might happen?
Okay, so let's start with the bullish scenario.
All right.
If the current positive sentiment continues and we see things like, clear regulations around Bitcoin ETFs or more big institutions investing in Bitcoin,
Mm-hmm.
then it's entirely possible that we enter a whole new phase of price discovery, meaning the price could just keep climbing even higher.
So it's like Bitcoin breaking free from its previous limitations and reaching for a whole new level?
That's a great way to put it. But of course, on the flip side, we also have to consider the possibility of a correction.
Right.
Bitcoin is known for its price swings. And after such a strong rally like we've seen,
Yeah.
it wouldn't be surprising to see a period where the price either stabilizes or even drops a bit.
So it's like that roller coaster analogy we talked about earlier. What goes up might come down, at least for a little while.
Right. A correction could happen for several reasons.
Huh.
Maybe large investors decide to take their profits and sell.
Oh, okay.
Maybe there's some negative news that shakes market sentiment.
Uh-huh.
Or maybe it's just a natural cooling off period after such intense buying activity.
So for people who are invested in Bitcoin or maybe thinking about investing,
Yeah.
how can they figure out which way things are likely to go? What should they be paying attention to?
Well, one important thing to watch is trading volume.
Okay.
A strong upward price movement with high trading volume usually means there's genuine bullish momentum,
Got it.
more so than a surge on low volume.
Yeah.
High volume means there's a lot of real buying interest,
Right.
while low volume can sometimes be a sign of market manipulation or just lack of conviction.
So it's like the difference between a genuine wave of enthusiasm and something that's more artificial or fleeting.
That's a great way to think about it. Another key indicator is the open interest in Bitcoin futures, which we talked about earlier.
Right.
A rising open interest, especially on those perpetual futures contracts, suggests that traders are increasingly bullish on where Bitcoin's price is headed.
Makes sense.
Conversely, a declining open interest could be a warning sign that that bullish sentiment is fading.
So keeping an eye on what's happening in the futures market can give you some valuable insights into, where the big money is flowing and what the overall sentiment is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But beyond just these technical indicators, it's crucial to stay informed about any news or events that could affect Bitcoin's price.
Of course.
This includes things like regulatory developments, overall economic trends,
Right.
adoption by major companies, and technological advancements in the crypto world.
So basically, you got to stay plugged into the world of crypto and keep your finger on the pulse of what's happening.
That's the key. Now, beyond just the price fluctuations, I think it's important to step back and ask ourselves, what does Bitcoin potentially hitting a new all-time high really mean for the future of cryptocurrency as a whole?
That's a great question. It's easy to get caught up in the excitement of, price movements.
For sure.
Well, what does it all mean in the grand scheme of things?
Well, a new all-time high wouldn't just be like a symbolic victory for Bitcoin. It would also be a really powerful statement about the growing acceptance and legitimacy of cryptocurrencies as a real asset class.
It's like crypto finally breaking through those barriers and earning a place alongside traditional financial assets.
Exactly. And this could lead to even more attention from institutional investors,
Right.
the mainstream media,
Uh-huh.
and even regulators. It could accelerate the integration of crypto into the global financial system.
So Bitcoin's success could pave the way for other cryptocurrencies to flourish as well.
Absolutely. When the biggest and most established cryptocurrency is doing well, it creates a sense of confidence in the whole ecosystem,
Yeah.
which attracts more investment, more innovation, and more people using cryptocurrencies.
Okay, that's pretty exciting. But we also need to talk about the potential downsides of Bitcoin's rapid rise.
Of course.
What are some of the risks or challenges that might come with increased mainstream adoption?
Well, one challenge is increased regulatory scrutiny. As more people use Bitcoin and it becomes more integrated into the financial system, governments around the world, they're going to want to figure out how to regulate it.
Of course.
This could lead to stricter rules and more oversight,
Hmm.
which could definitely impact Bitcoin's growth.
It's like a double-edged sword. More adoption brings more legitimacy and stability,
Yeah,
but it also attracts the attention of regulators who might want to impose some limitations.
exactly. Another challenge is scalability.
Hmm.
As more people use Bitcoin, the network can become congested,
Oh, right.
which can lead to slower transaction times and higher fees. Developers are working on solutions to this, like the Lightning Network,
Okay.
but it's definitely something to be aware of as Bitcoin continues to grow.
So there are some hurdles to overcome,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it seems like the potential benefits of widespread Bitcoin adoption,
Right.
they might outweigh those risks.
That's a matter of perspective, of course, and it's
Mm.
important for each individual to carefully consider those potential rewards and risks before investing in Bitcoin or any other cryptocurrency.
Absolutely. This isn't financial advice, just a fascinating exploration of a really complex and rapidly changing landscape.
Yeah.
But speaking of exploration,
Huh?
there's another aspect of this potential new all-time high that I think is worth considering: the impact on the global financial system as a whole.
You know, Bitcoin, with its decentralized nature and its potential to disrupt traditional financial institutions, has always been seen as a potential challenge to the status quo.
It's like a digital David going up against the Goliath of centralized finance.
You got it. A new all-time high for Bitcoin could really empower those who believe in its potential to create a more equitable and accessible financial system,
Right.
one that's less controlled by central banks and governments.
So it could shift the balance of power, giving individuals more control over their own finances.
Potentially, yes,
Yeah.
but that's a long-term vision, and the road to getting there is full of challenges and uncertainties.
Of course.
The future of finance is still being written, and Bitcoin's role in that future is far from certain.
Well said. It's a fascinating journey to be a part of. But before we get too lost in these big picture ideas,
Yep.
I think it's important to bring it back down to earth for a moment and talk about what all of this means for our listeners, on a practical level.
That's a good point. It's easy to get caught up in the theoretical possibilities,
Right.
but ultimately, Bitcoin is about people.
Right. It's about people seeking financial freedom,
Yeah.
developers creating new technologies,
Yeah.
and entrepreneurs building new solutions on top of the Bitcoin blockchain. It's this global community with a shared vision of a more decentralized and equitable future.
And that's what makes it so compelling. Bitcoin isn't just a digital currency.
Right.
It's a social movement.
I love that. It's inspiring to think about it that way.
Yeah.
But let's get practical for a moment and address some of the questions our listeners might have about, how to navigate this exciting
Yeah.
but sometimes confusing world of Bitcoin.
Yes. It's definitely important to approach Bitcoin with a clear head and a realistic understanding of the risks involved.
So let's start with the basics. For someone who's completely new to Bitcoin, where should I begin?
I always say the first step is education.
Right.
There are so many resources available online.
Oh, yeah. Tons.
From articles and videos to podcasts and even online courses.
Yeah, for sure.
They can teach you the fundamentals of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency.
It's like learning a new language. You wouldn't jump into a conversation without understanding, the basic vocabulary and grammar.
Exactly. Take your time, do your
Yeah.
research,
Uh-huh.
and don't be afraid to ask questions.
Yeah.
The Bitcoin community is very welcoming, and there are plenty of people who are happy to help newcomers learn the ropes.
Okay, so education is key.
Yeah.
Once someone feels comfortable with the basics, what are some practical steps they can take to actually get involved with Bitcoin?
Well, one of the first things you'll need is a Bitcoin wallet.
Okay.
This is basically a digital storage solution that lets you send, receive, and securely store your Bitcoin.
Right.
There are different types of wallets available, each with its own advantages and disadvantages. So it's important to choose one that suits your needs and your technical comfort level.
So a wallet is like your personal digital vault for holding your Bitcoin.
Exactly. Once you have a wallet set up, you can buy Bitcoin through a cryptocurrency exchange.
Okay.
These exchanges are like online marketplaces where you can buy and sell Bitcoin using different payment methods,
Right.
like bank transfers, credit cards, or even other cryptocurrencies.
All right, so you've got your wallet.
Yep.
You found an exchange,
Huh?
and you're ready to buy some Bitcoin. But how do you decide how much to invest?
That's the big question, isn't it?
Yep.
And the answer really depends on your individual financial situation,
Right.
your risk tolerance, and your investment goals.
Made sense.
It's absolutely crucial to remember that Bitcoin is a volatile asset,
For sure.
meaning the price can go up and down significantly in a short amount of time.
It's definitely not for the faint of heart.
That's for sure. Never invest more than you can afford to lose, and always diversify your portfolio. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, especially when it comes to cryptocurrencies.
That's sound advice. So we've covered the basics: education, wallets, exchanges, and responsible investing. Now let's zoom out a bit and talk about the bigger picture. Where do you see Bitcoin heading in the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, it's impossible to predict the future with certainty,
Right.
especially in such a fast-moving space like crypto.
Yeah, for sure.
But if I had to make a guess, I'd say Bitcoin is likely to continue on its path towards wider adoption and integration into the global financial system.
So more legitimacy, more stability, more mainstream acceptance.
Potentially, yes. We can see Bitcoin becoming a more common way to pay for things,
Okay.
a safe haven asset for people looking for stability in times of economic uncertainty,
Yeah.
and even a key element of new decentralized financial applications.
That's an exciting vision. But as you mentioned earlier,
Uh-huh.
there are also some challenges and uncertainties on the horizon. What are some of the things that could potentially hinder Bitcoin's progress in the coming years?
Well, regulatory uncertainty is still a big concern.
Okay.
Governments around the world are still figuring out how to approach cryptocurrencies.
Yeah.
And their decisions could have a major impact on Bitcoin's future.
Right. It's like this constant back and forth between those who want to see Bitcoin thrive and those who are more hesitant or cautious.
Exactly. Another challenge is competition from other cryptocurrencies.
Right.
Bitcoin might be the biggest and most well-known, but there are thousands of other cryptocurrencies out there,
Yeah.
some of which offer unique features or try to solve specific problems that Bitcoin doesn't address.
It's like a race to innovate and stay ahead of the curve.
Precisely. And then there's the issue of technological advancements.
Uh-huh.
The crypto space is constantly evolving,
Yeah.
and Bitcoin needs to keep pace with these advancements if it wants to remain relevant and competitive in the long run.
Okay. So there are some real hurdles to overcome.
For sure.
But overall, it seems like the outlook for Bitcoin is still quite positive despite these challenges.
Yes. I'd agree with that. Bitcoin has shown an incredible amount of resilience and adaptability over the years.
Correct.
And it has this large and dedicated community of supporters
Yeah.
who are passionate about its growth and development.
That's great to hear. Now, before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with a final thought-provoking question.
Okay, hit me.
If Bitcoin does achieve widespread adoption and becomes a core part of the global financial system,
Right.
what impact could that have on our lives, both as individuals and as a society?
That's a profound question,
Yeah.
and one that deserves careful consideration. A truly decentralized and accessible financial system
Right.
could have really far-reaching implications, touching everything from how we manage our personal finances to how global trade is conducted.
It could change the way we think about money, power, and control in a fundamental way.
Exactly. But it's important to remember that this is a journey, not a destination.
Right.
The future of finance is still being written, and Bitcoin is just one chapter in that unfolding story.
That's a great point. We're all part of this story as it's being written.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground in this part of our deep dive.
Yeah, yeah.
From those technical details of Bitcoin's price movements to the broader philosophical implications of its potential impact on the world.
It's been a fascinating conversation,
Yeah.
and I hope our listeners are finding it valuable.
Me too. And to our listeners, we'll be back in just a moment to wrap up our deep dive into Bitcoin. We'll explore some additional insights and leave you with some final thoughts to ponder. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to our deep dive into Bitcoin. It's been quite the journey,
Yeah, it has.
exploring the current market trends, those expert predictions, and what could happen if Bitcoin hits a new all-time high.
Yeah, for sure.
Before we wrap things up, I want to touch on one more point from that Cointelegraph article.
Okay.
It mentions that if Bitcoin hits a new all-time high, it could actually make the argument for using it as a hedge against inflation even stronger.
Right, that's a key part of the whole Bitcoin story, isn't it?
Yeah. The idea is that because Bitcoin has a limited supply,
Right.
there will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin out there.
Yeah.
It's protected from the kind of inflation that can really devalue traditional currencies.
So theoretically, as more money is printed
Yeah.
and the value of traditional currencies decreases, Bitcoin could hold its value better
Right.
or even increase in value
Yeah,
because it's scarce.
exactly. It's like digital gold in a way.
Mm,
Gold has historically been seen as a safe haven asset during times of economic uncertainty.
right.
Of course, it's still a really hotly debated topic,
Yeah, for sure.
and there are valid arguments on both sides.
Yeah, of course.
Some economists argue that Bitcoin is too volatile to be a reliable hedge against inflation,
Okay.
while others believe its decentralized nature and limited supply make it an ideal store of value over the long term.
It's definitely a complex issue with no easy answers,
That's for sure.
but it's something for our listeners to consider as they follow Bitcoin's journey and form their own opinions.
Absolutely. The key is to do your research, stay informed, and think critically about all the information you come across.
Well said. And on that note, I want to thank you, expert speaker, for sharing your incredible insights with us today.
Oh, it's been my pleasure.
You've really helped us break down this fascinating world.
I always enjoy exploring these topics and sharing what I've learned.
And to our listeners, we hope this deep dive has been informative and engaging.
I hope so.
We encourage you to keep exploring the world of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. It's constantly evolving, with the potential to really change the financial world as we know it.
Yeah, it's an exciting space to be in for sure.
So stay curious, stay informed, and stay engaged. The
Absolutely.
future of finance is being written right now,
Right now.
and it's exciting to be a part of it.
Couldn't agree more.
That wraps up another episode of The Deep Dive. We'll be back soon with another fascinating topic that's shaping our world. Until then, keep learning, keep questioning, and keep pushing the boundaries of knowledge,